God is dead. And you should know. You killed him. Those are not my words, of course. I am paraphrasing the famous words of Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, the father of existentialism, and the most relevant philosopher of these modern times. He's also my favorite person who is, ever was, and ever shall be. He died a sad death, though. He died insane. Even so, I can't help but think that at the moment he died, he was the most lucid and aware person that there is, ever was, and ever shall be. Excuse me for being repetitious. But you can't laud the guy enough. He changed everything. I am the crucified one, were his dying words. Since the beginning of his scholarly career, he aimed to replace the original Christ. And if you asked me, he succeeded. Oh, and by the way, the photo above Nietzsche's portrait? That's my mom. She's a psych nurse at a mental hospital. She's cool. See that guy in the blue shirt? That is me, looking into the mirror, deep in philosophical thought. 17-year-old Michael Windsor, 2 days before his last day of high school. Only 2 days remain until he never has to see those silly kids at MLK High again. By the fall, he'll be in beautiful Cambridge, Massachusetts. He will have joined the cream of the crop of the country, and the world, at Harvard. Finally, he goes away from here, where he could never adjust. My sister caught me in an embarrassing situation that morning. She saw me in the middle of saying the aforementioned quote to myself in the mirror. I said it proud, being the atheist that I am. At some point, I got the feeling that I was being watched. I looked to my left. And there she was, gawking at me from the hallway. It was my mistake. I should have kept the door closed. I don't know why she thinks I'm so abnormal. But then again, I suppose she wouldn't make me feel like such a pariah if I were more like her thugged-out boyfriends, or any homeboy she deems worthy to socialize with. I'd say she looks like an alien with all that makeup she puts on. She likes to primp herself to an extreme. Her lips are overly glossy, her lashes are long enough that they could prick you if you get too close, and her face is ghost-like with powder. A designer tote bag is always hanging on her right arm. She has about 50 of them. That's what she uses to carry her books. You'd have to pay her a substantial amount of money for her to wear a backpack. I asked her what she was staring at, but she didn't say anything. All she did was turn away and go down the stairs, all the while flipping her overprocessed hair at me. This was a gesture I long figured out was her way of diminishing someone. After a moment, it occurred to me that I didn't have much time left, so I grabbed my book bag and headed out. That day, right before 6th period, I went to my locker to get some of my philosophy books, so I could read on the bus. As I sifted through my locker, I noticed that a shadow was cast in front of me, making everything dark. I turned around, and saw the tall and imposing body of Officer Wesley, the school safety officer, looming over me. They call him Officer Wes, or sometimes jokingly Wesley Snipes, due to his stark resemblance to this actor I've never seen, or heard anything about. The man has had it in for me ever since that day just before spring break started. I saw him socializing boisterously with Terrence and some other boys outside the basketball court after lunch. I wasn't surprised so much with how the students were speaking. But from a man with at least a college degree, and who is considered to be so upstanding that he can carry a gun and a badge, one would expect something much more urbane than a bunch of this nigga and that nigga and fuck this nigga. It really bothered me, so I approached him very politely. "Excuse me, Officer Wes." I had apparently said it too low. They kept on conversating. "Excuse me," I said a little louder. They all looked at me. "I don't think you should be using that kind of language, Officer Wes."
Excuse you?
The next thing I knew, I was waiting outside the administrative offices with the yellow write-up slip Officer Wes had given me. Before that day, I seldom had any disciplinary action taken against me, let alone a demerit for usurping authority, as the yellow slip said. When it was finally time to enter the office of Dean Sanchez, the assistant principal assigned to me, I noticed the man was a big Yankee fan. He had a large poster of Derek Jeter that said in large letters, RESPCT, and a bobblehead doll of the baseball star. After giving him my account of what happened, Mr. Sanchez acknowledged that Officer West wrote me up in spite, and that he would talk to him about it. In addition, after seeing in the system that my grades were very good, and that I was going to Harvard, he admitted that he wouldn't want to enter anything in my record that would be a red light for the administrators at the university. He sent me on my way with not even a phone call to my mom. I was so grateful. "Go Yankees!" I said before leaving his office.
Better hustle. 40 seconds to the bell,
Officer West said as he looked at his watch. I picked a book at random, shoved it into my satchel, and shut the locker. A moment later, I was rushing down the hallway. I could see my AP English teacher standing beside the open door next to Officer Wesley. I knew I wasn't more than a few steps away when the bell rang. Still, she shut the door in my face. Immediately afterwards, Officer Wesley sent me to Tardy Hall, motioning like a baseball umpire.
"You're out."
It was my first time in Tardy Hall. At the front of the room, Officer Wesley sat back in his chair with his feet up on the desk, eating an apple. I'm seated in the front row. He glances at me every now and then. Leering glances. That afternoon, the bus would soon pull up by the stop across the street from the school. Through the window, I could see Malia and her besties, Ebony and the other girl, in the crowd of students that stood waiting. I always remember Ebony's name, and not the other girls, because Ebony is an overgrown beast of a woman. Malia once disclosed to me that she measured 6'6" and weighed in at around 400 pounds in phys ed. Ebony has a crush on me. For the longest time she's been acclimating her manner around me, and staring at me every chance she could steal. My sister had taken note of this very early on, and during one of those rare candid conversations we had over ice cream at King's Plaza Mall in early April, suggested that I ask her out to prom. "I'm not so sure if it will work out," I said waveringly. "We have completely opposite personalities." That was just an excuse, of course. Actually, I was afraid of what that behemoth would do to me if we were to have relations.
"But she wants you to hit it,"
Malia attested. "Not all men crave sex as much as you think we do." I explained to her. "We, intellectuals, keep it to a minimum so as not to dull our minds. Besides," I added, "if I'm going to ask anyone out, it would be Erica."
"You mean that preppy girl that be talking all proper?"
she said with a snigger. Erica was the only other senior, except me, who decided to take all AP courses in her final year. Contrary to what Malia was insinuating, I don't like her because she's preppy, or even because she's one of the only other students in our school that speak well. I like her because she's at my level. I'm not going to get with a girl whose highest form of discussion concerns the current celebrity scandal, or the latest designer boots. I began to explain to my sister. I need a partner who will help me reach new intellectual heights, who will aid me in my research, who will ponder questions with me such as what came first, the chicken or the egg, who will help me edit and publish books, who will. Malia interrupted me with her sniggering and said,
"She don't want to do all that with you, she want a dog."
"But how can you say that?"
"'Cause that's how it is. Good girls want bad boys, and plus, I seen her, she be all up in Mark."
I stared at Malia blankly for a moment before I could recall seeing what she described with my own two eyes in the school hallways. Indeed, she clung to like a starfish. Meanwhile, other than hearing her speak in English class, the most I got out of her was "Hi Michael, how are you?" and "Bye." "She's infatuated with him, isn't she?" I said with a sigh.
"Duh."